Hey everybody, Shoebox Legends here. Thanks for joining me today for my latest episode of Tip of the Cap. This is an ongoing series where I kind of do a shout out to a YouTube channel or a personality that I really enjoy, and then use it as an excuse to also show off some cards from my own collection that I think remind me of that particular collector or that collector would appreciate, etc. So it's sort of a kill two birds with one stone. Draw some attention to a channel that I think deserves it, and show off some of my collection at the same time. And as you can tell by the package in front of you there that's been labeled, today's tip of the cap is going to Dylan over at DoubleD Vintage Baseball Cards. Awesome guy. I learned about Dylan maybe a few months ago from my pal Ken over at Ken's Cardboard. Somehow hadn't stumbled upon his channel prior to that, but I'm glad that I did. I've watched, I think, every one of his episodes at this point, or his videos. Typically come out about once a week, and Dylan is just an awesome guy. I cannot recommend his channel enough. I mean, I'll watch almost anybody's content, and I love everyone's different take on the hobby, but Dylan has to be among my absolute favorites. He is must-see material, got an amazing collection. He focuses on vintage cards, as his name would imply. Which I think he's, mid-80s and backwards, basically, is what you can expect to see. But amazing collection, amazing card room and background in his videos. He's built his own custom card room walls that hold, slabbed cards. It looks like a museum. It's just awesome. But above everything else, and the last thing I'll say before we get into the cards here, out of all the many channels on YouTube and the different takes on the hobby, I think what I would say about Dylan is that he most closely reminds me of the passion that I had for collecting when I was a kid. And I mean that in as a supreme compliment. Hope you don't take it the wrong way, Dylan, but he just gets so genuinely excited about cards and vintage baseball cards and spending time with his collection that it really does remind me of kind of that feeling when you're, 7, 8, 10, 12-year-old kid and have that same passion and excitement for the hobby. Dylan, I don't think, has ever lost his, and it's just a ton of fun to watch. So in addition to being super knowledgeable and super friendly, which we'll see later on in this video, his enthusiasm is unmatched. So Dylan, awesome work on your channel. Keep it up. Really enjoyed becoming friends with you, and wanted to do a little shout out to you today. Also, the timing was inspired by the fact that Dylan sent along this bubble mailer. So I think I know what's in here, although it feels slightly thicker than what I was expecting. Dylan had reached out and let me know about a card that he wanted to send my way, which is amazing. But before we get to that, in these installments, I do like to show a couple cards from my own PC that remind me of the collector who I'm tipping my cap to. And we're going to start with an interesting one here. This is a collection of mini cards that Allen and Ginter included in the 2008 set on Sharks, essentially. I think it's 5 cards deep. We'll look in a second here. I do have the whole set. And I remember these being relatively tough to pull out of the product. And I've always been kind of fascinated by Sharks. And so we've got the Great White here to lead us off. So that's why I collected this set. I'm kind of terrified of them, but also just enamored with them at the same time. So, probably a result of Jaws growing up and other stuff, but I love watching shark documentaries. I've actually been out on a boat with a friend of mine to try to track sharks and off the Cape Cod up here in New England, and we were successful. And you had a helicopter spotter that would find them for you, and then you could get up, within vicinity of them, and we were able to see a great white in the wild, which was amazing. So always really kind of mystified by sharks. And the reason I wanted to include this little set, Dylan lives out in Hawaii and is an avid surfer, surfs, I believe, every single day, and told on his channel a pretty, to me, terrifying tale of being attacked by a shark while surfing by himself out on the open ocean out there in Hawaii. So thought it was fitting. I've kind of been meaning to show this little insert set off, and there's the last one, the Mako shark, for a while now. And this video seemed like a good opportunity to do it. Dylan also does collect marine creatures. I think, again, vintage versions, but he does have a collection of, sharks and other marine creatures. So that seemed like a cool little set to put into this shout out video. And then we'll take down his package for a moment here and get back to that in a second. But I have 2 other slabs that I wanted to show off. And it kind of shows the two-way street between Dylan and I as far as motivating each other in our hobby acquisitions and our purchases. So this is a card that I picked up recently and showed to Dylan. We text back and forth sometimes, and I sent him a pic of this because I just thought it was kind of up his alley. Just a super cool combo card here. Obviously front and center is Al Kaline, but just a beautiful, beautiful card. I think that's the old Tiger Stadium in the background there, and love the figures lurking around behind these guys. And I knew Dylan would appreciate this one because not only does he love just vintage, and this is obviously right in his wheelhouse, being in the 58 top set, but he also enjoys, as I do, cards that kind of have people just lurking around in the background. And sent this off to Dylan, and I believe inspired him to add this to his watch list. And it's a card that he's looking to acquire in the near future, I think. So best of luck tracking down one of those, Dylan. That's a really sharp looking SGC4. I was just pumped to find that at a discount. I don't really know what would make that score any higher. It's just, the condition is just perfect. The back is nice. I mean, there's really no issues with this. The corners are maybe not razor sharp, but they're pretty good, and the centering sure is perfect. So that was a pickup of mine that kind of reminded me of Dylan, but it's a two-way street, and in the time that I've been watching his videos, he has been really entertaining, but also a little bit damaging on my wallet because his videos are anywhere between 30 and 60 minutes long, and if you watch one, by the end of it, odds are if you enjoy vintage cardboard, you've probably jotted down half a dozen or more cards that you want to go seek out now. Thanks to Dylan showing off his beautiful copies. So an example of that would be Robin Yount. So this is his favorite player, I believe, or at least the 75 Robin Yount rookie card is his favorite card of all time. He's actually got a custom Robin Yount t-shirt, Robin Yount rookie card t-shirt, which I love, and multiple copies of the card. I do have a Yount rookie, but I felt like this next card was more appropriate for the video because I purchased this after watching a video on Dylan's channel, decided to get on eBay and just kind of look at Robin Yount graded cards because I don't have him very well represented in my collection, considering he's a 3,000 hit guy and very, very successful, and ended up getting a card. It's not his rookie, it's his second year card, but it's in a condition that, I mean, honestly looks as though it just came out of a pack moments ago. So this is, a near mint to mint 8. It's just so crisp, and this is the way that Dylan seems to like his vintage. I guess everybody would that collects vintage, but he really specializes in cards that just look amazing and practically pack fresh. And when I saw this one, that absolutely qualified. I'm a big fan of second year cardboard, so I thought it was kind of attractive for that reason as well. But mainly I was just drawn to the extreme crisp condition of this. I've sort of gotten used to in recent years, especially the last couple of years, looking for lower grade. And let's take a look at the back here as well, which is also very nice. I've gotten used to looking at lower grade vintage graded cards just because, pricing went so nuts in the secondary market during COVID and everything that happened there. And I was just really shocked to find that one at open auction and win that for under $40 shipped to my door for a second year Robin Yount that looks that amazing. So it sort of reinvigorated me to look at 70s cards maybe in 8s and early 80s cards in 9s, where I'd kind of strayed away from that. And so Dylan, that 76 Yount purchase was very much inspired by your channel. And last but certainly not least, after a few minutes of buildup here, Dylan was kind enough to send me this package of cards recently, which was not necessary and super cool and just so appreciated. In addition to just being very enthusiastic about cards, he certainly seems to be very generous. I see him sending out packages to folks, on the regular. So just awesome guy, and certainly appreciate this. And this is packed. Dylan did a video on his packing process on his channel, and I can see he followed that here. And this is just expertly packed. So you've got this hard protective cardboard that gives it some rigidity. And then within that, you've got a padded eBay envelope folded over and not used so that it can be reused. And within this, we have the, I think, card that I'm expecting from Dylan. And so we actually got a nice note here. And I hope it's okay if I read this, Dylan. Always keep all these notes. Mr. Shoebox Legends, it has been great to get to know you and your collection. I'm blown away every day over this entire YouTube experience. Feels weird to say I have formed real friends since diving into YouTube, but it's 100% true. I have 3 phone numbers now, and you are one of them, and it makes me smile every time I get a text from a fellow collector/friend. I hope these cards find a place in your amazing collection. I purchased a bunch of Rack Pack boxes probably around 2008 on Blowout Cards during their Christmas live discount specials they would run. So I have boxes of this stuff. So you don't need to open this one on your channel or anything like that. I always give these packs to my nephew, and we bust them open for fun. So do whatever you want with them. Well, Shane, hope you enjoy your cards, and double shaka, bro. That's from DoubleD, Dylan, DoubleD. So double shaka, Dylan, right back at you. And this is awesome. So here's the Rack Pack that Dylan was referring to, and I saw Pepino Man receive one of these from Dylan recently as well. It's going to be a struggle to even fit this all on camera, but this is a 2007 Topps Rack Pack, and what's really neat about this, I don't think you know this, Dylan, or I've mentioned it to you, but 2007 was the year that I got back into the hobby as an adult after about a 10-year break when I was going through high school and college, kind of getting settled into adulthood. So this is the first Topps set that I remember buying packs of when I got back in as, probably a 24, 25-year-old in that summer of 2007. So awesome that you included this. We got Ryan Howard right on the top, who would go on to win a World Series the following year with Philly. So awesome Rack Pack that I was not expecting there. Thank you, Dylan. And then we've got, looks like a couple cards here. I was aware of one that Dylan mentioned was coming, but it looks like we actually have 3 here. And this is the first one, and I'm just so happy to get this, stoked, as Dylan would say, to have this in the collection. This is the DoubleD Vintage Baseball Card Custom Card featuring Dylan, and that is Dylan surfing. What an amazing shot. Perfect photograph for a card like this. And this is the autographed 2022 version here. Got Dylan's auto down in the left, so this is cool. I've seen these on a couple of other channels, and I love when YouTubers go out of their way to make custom cards for themselves and their channels. Got one recently from Ken over at Ken's Cardboard, and now I have my very own Dylan DoubleD card to add to my collection. I do store these in the collection alongside my other cards, quite honestly. I just think they're really, really cool, and great job with that one, Dylan. Happy to have that. And then, man, this is pretty insane, but we're going to get to this one first. So this is the card that Dylan had let me know was coming, and this is a 53 Topps Rube Walker for the Brooklyn Dodgers catcher. I love this card for so many reasons. Dylan reached out to me on this because he saw a couple of videos that I did on my 53 Topps set pursuit, and I kind of mentioned the phases that I've been going through, and right now I'm building this set raw with graded Hall of Famers, and I think I'm about a third of the way there, 30%, something like that. Dylan reached out and asked if I had this Rube Walker. Looked at my checklist, I did not have it. As I've mentioned before, and most vintage collectors know, there's definitely a tax on Dodgers and Yankees. Those guys are a little bit more, maybe not expensive, but in some cases definitely more expensive and tougher to track down. You just pay a premium to get Yankees and Dodgers from the 50s. So I hadn't tracked down this Rube Walker yet. He had 2 copies, and he just, out of the kindness of his heart, sent this one my way for my set. I mean, that is just another awesome example of the generosity that exists in this community. Dylan and I have never met, hopefully someday, but we've never met, but I absolutely consider him a friend. And the fact that someone would go out of their way like this to send a 50s vintage card, across the Pacific Ocean and the entire United States to my door to go into my 53 set, it's just amazing. And, this is making it even more special. This is a card that was in Dylan's, cataloged and organized collection. One of the really cool things that he does, every one of his raw cards, he analyzes and goes through a process of adding to his collection. And I admire his organization and the time that he takes to do that. So he'll analyze the card, he'll put it in a card saver, nicely centered and in a perfect fit sleeve to keep it mint. And then he will assign a grade to the card. It's the DoubleD grading system, vintage grading system, of what he thinks that card would grade at in his estimation. And he's very familiar with the different graders and the requirements, so he does a really good job assigning these grades, and then all of this information is tracked in a spreadsheet and is part of his, official collection. So the fact that he was willing to send me a card from his own personal organized collection like this for my set, and a set that is near and dear to me, is just so awesome. I am 100% going to keep this card exactly like it is here, because I want this to be a part of my 53 set that I remember that Dylan contributed to. It just makes it that much cooler. So I am not going to be taking this out of the card saver or removing the DoubleD grading label. This card is going to stay like this in the collection, and just what an awesome and thoughtful addition to my 53 set. Obviously, that's why I had put that 53 out here on the side to kind of kick off the video, because I did know that one was coming. Dylan had reached out to me. And then if I've been a little bit distracted or sounded off base in the last few minutes as I've chugged through this video, it's because I've been staring off the side of the camera at this card that I'm sort of in disbelief was included. I had no idea this was coming. I'm seriously at a loss for words, so I'm just going to show it. And there are a couple things I want to mention about it. So this is the 66 Topps NL Batting Leaders card. And this is like just, I'm so special for a number of reasons. I love combo and league leader cards from the 50s and 60s especially. I just think they're fantastic. I know Dylan shares that love of the league leader and combo cards. They're often like a cheaper way to get the greatest stars of the game on cardboard. And they also feature sometimes pairings of players or groupings of players that you can't otherwise get on the same card. And in my estimation, this card right here is right up there with possibly the greatest example of one of these that exists. Can you think of 3 players that you would rather have on the same card from the mid-60s than Roberto Clemente, Hank Aaron, and Willie Mays? I mean, I learned about this card on Dylan's channel. I'm sure at some point in the past, I've obviously seen this or had flipped through it in a book of, Topps card pictures or something, but it definitely wasn't on my radar, put it that way, and it definitely wasn't in my collection. And as soon as I learned of this card's existence, I believe Dylan, and I would agree with this based on what I know, kind of claim that this is one of the greatest league leader cards that you could, possibly obtain. And I just fell in love with this thing instantly. I have been searching for one of these since. I immediately set up an eBay saved search for this card, and I've looked at, probably dozens of copies, trying to find the right one that's the fit that I want in my collection. And here we are, I've got one that's more than I could ever ask for. I don't even feel like I need to buy that card any longer. I'm absolutely stunned. That is just so beyond generous, Dylan, and absolutely going to hit you back for this. I just can't convey my thanks enough. Just a stunner. I mean, the fact that you were kind enough to send that 53, on its own is just incredible, but putting this card in there with it as a complete surprise, knowing, how enamored I was with it and what a special card I think it is just, it's the tops, pun intended. So thank you so much, Dylan. Really value your friendship and looking forward to many years of enjoying the hobby together and kind of sharing in it. And I just can't thank you enough. So to everybody else, if you, for some reason, are living under a rock and have not been over to DoubleD Vintage Baseball Cards, there's hardly a channel on YouTube that I could recommend more. I guarantee you will enjoy Dylan's enthusiasm in his videos as much as I have. So please check the link below. Head on over. Tell Dylan Shoebox sent you and say hello. And just enjoy his approach to the hobby. I certainly have. And wow. So we're going to leave it there. I'm rambling. And I'm really just in a state of stunned disbelief. So let's call it there. I'll be back in the very near future with some more sports card content. Until then, enjoy the hobby, everyone, and stay safe.